Snow White. It's even worse than I expected, but a critical drinker. This is gonna be interesting. We all know Snow White is currently sitting at like at 1.5 at IMDb. 1.5 at like 220k reviews. That is crazy. That is wild. This movie is so ass.
There are certain fundamental truths about this world which are so universal that anyone, no matter their race, colour or creed, can pretty much agree on them. 1. Never trust a post-Vindaloo fart.
What, a post what?
Much agree on them. 1. Never trust a post-Vindaloo fart. 2. Spreadable butter isn't. 3.
That's something I agree on. That's something I agree on. When they say that butter is spreadable, it is not. It is not. It is not. They're lying to you. They're lying to us all. That's a great conspiracy theory. They're telling us that spreadable butter is spreadable. It's not.
Anytime a woman starts a sentence with, "a real man would," you know you're about to hear some weapons-grade retardation.
I agree also on that. I hate these, like, a real woman would, like, shut the fuck up. Please. I'm gonna hear absolute stupidity.
And to that not-so-illustrious list, we can add that the Snow White live-action remake was, without a doubt, one of the worst ideas in the whole history of entertainment. Possibly the most predictable.
It is the worst one. It is. It would have not been if you would stick to the source material, but you would refuse, just like you refuse in everything that you try to remake, whether it be Dumbo, The Little Mermaid, fucking, The Witcher, Warhammer, apparently, also at times. I don't know what's going on. So, the main criticism I've heard is, it's not accurate to the original. From a lot of women, I've heard that Snow White is a girl's girl, and in this movie, she's not a girl's girl. Gal Gadot cannot act, which is nothing new. She cannot act. She looks pretty, but she cannot act. That's pretty much it. The costumes look to the point where they are immersion breaking. Especially apparently the thief wears a hoodie for some reason. The Evil Queen's outfit is too, like, there's too much jewelry on it. The people didn't like that. And apparently, like, the world feels like very, what's the word? Un-Disney-like. Like, it looks like very bland. The entire, like, the world that they made for this looks very bland. Those are the main criticisms I've heard. True, OG is.
Predictable of all failures, a project conceived for all the wrong reasons, starring all the wrong people, pushing all the wrong messages, and telling the entirely wrong story. After all the delays and the controversies and the speculation that have been swirling around it for what feels like decades now, it was actually kinda weird to finally sit down and just watch this thing. Like meeting a celebrity after following their career for years. Not a good kind of celebrity, like. More like a Jimmy Savile kind of celebrity. The kind that you're discreetly warned never to get into a lockable room alone with. But here it is, nonetheless, and now that I've finally...
Yeah, people also said that the dwarves look horrid, like really bad or really terrible. I've said it many times ago, but I feel like CGI from years ago is better than CGI now. One of the things that people bring up is Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean, how good he looks. A lot of people also bring up some parts of the Transformers movie when the Transformers transform. These guys do not look good. In general, like, why do they not go back to 2D, to drawn stuff? Like it just looks better. Uh, um, I've just seen a clip from that one movie where like that one chick gets turned into a frog. I know what the German name is from that movie, but I don't know what you call it in English. That looks so good. That looks so good. Why are you not going back?
Suffered through nearly 2 hours of Snow White, I can confidently tell you that, yes, this film absolutely lived up to all my worst expectations, and in some cases even exceeded them. A bloated, overstuffed turkey of a production, weighed down by hammy acting, cheap costumes, horrendous CGI, and vomit-inducing.
Interestingly enough, that is something that I've very much noticed. Cheap costumes. Specifically, I want to point out the Wheel of Time and the Rings of Power. What is going on? We have movies from like 20 years ago that have by leagues better costume design than what we get now. And I think it has a lot to do with the material that they use for these. That reminds me, they are making a lore movie. I don't want them to just let it be. It's so good, leave it alone. Yeah, they leave it alone. Apparently, the anime movie didn't do as well. Also, apparently, I could be wrong.
Cinematography that bungles most of the elements it steals from the original animated movie, abandons its classic ideals of self-sacrifice, heroism, and true love, and injects the lethal dose of the message, which
What do we have here for the message? Yeah, but I think one of the things like I've noticed is that we are in media stripping women of their femininity. Maybe I'm just retorted, but it's true. When I think of Western media, I can barely think of female protagonists that have like a girl or like a girl's girl, and they have like a and they're still like strong characters, and they have a good love interest that doesn't happen anymore. What happened? When I look at Eastern media, like specifically Japanese, even Chinese at times, you have strong female characters that are still feminine. What happened? What I've also noticed is that I don't know. That's also one of my major problems with modern feminism. Instead of elevating femininity, you trying to turn women into secondary dudes. Which is like, shouldn't feminism celebrate femininity?
of the message.
The message, yeah, diversity, safe zone, feminist equality, right? Let's work together. Yeah, there's a bunch of things here. Yeah, but the message, you need the message. You need the message. You need the message. Because the message also gets you additionally funding from DEI programs and stuff.
Which is so redundant and thematically contradictory that it just gets abandoned by the ends. It's also laughably obvious where they've had to reshoot and rewrite big chunks of this movie in response to all the backlash. Entire subplots, characters, and setups are introduced and then abandoned without explanation, and the ending.
Here's another hot take. They can run around with this inclusion thing all the time. Oh, we let a Latina play Snow White. You know, we included black characters. But when it came to dwarf actors, actors with dwarvism, you chose to go the CGI route. Isn't that interesting?
Is so wildly anticlimactic and jarring that it makes World War Z look like a model of cinematic efficiency. Anyway, let's get the plot summary over with so we can put this turd behind us. The basic setup for Snow White is broadly similar to the original film. Snow White herself is born to the benevolent king and queen of a generic medieval fantasy land that tactfully goes unnamed. Although, fuck me, they must have pretty good transportation links with the rest of the world because the population here is more ethnically diverse than central London.
Bro. That is wild, that take. I cannot understand though. Because at the end of the day, it kind of, well, the world was Z shade. At least it was entertaining. Yeah, at least it's entertaining. This is not entertaining. Usually I don't care, right? But this is technically a German story. I mean, at this, it's a fantasy story. I don't really care that much, but it is a German story.
Anyway, Snow White's mum dies and her dad remarries Gal Gadot, who manipulates him into going off to war, where he promptly disappears and is never seen again. Oh no, guess she's gonna have to take control of everything. What a bind. Fast forward a few years and the kingdom's become a kind of dystopian nightmare where everyone's poor and hopeless and ruled over by an iron-fisted tyrant. It's a bit like modern day Britain, only with better sanitation and dental care.
Well, he has a bone to pick with Britain.
Anyway, after a confrontation with Snow White over a bandit named Jonathan who tried to steal some food from the castle, the evil queen decides the best thing to do is send her out into the forest where the huntsman can conveniently murder her. It's a bit extreme, but I'll let it slide. Naturally, the huntsman has second thoughts and decides to let her go, and after wandering alone for a while, she runs into 7 dwarves that I can only describe as the kind of thing that Cthulhu probably has nightmares about.
Yeah, these guys look bad. It's just like, you could have just settled for actual dwarf actors, right? You could have just settled for it. You could have just settled for it. I check under my bed for these things at night. Cthulhu. That is wild. I mean, yeah, those guys are nightmare fuel. The thing is, like, again, the queen should have refunded her mirror. Yeah, the mirror lied, because technically she is the prettiest one.
I'm not kidding, man. The brief glimpses that you got of these things in the trailers are absolutely nothing compared to the existential horror of actually witnessing them on the big screen. These are nightmares made real. Like if you woke up in the middle of the night and saw Mr. Blobby standing at the foot of your bed, silent, motionless, watching you with those blank, lifeless eyes that bore into your very soul. So after crashing at their house for a while, eating their food and helping herself to all of their resources, Snow White helpfully forces them to clean up their own home while she prances around like she's on some mad acid trip. Which she probably is, to be fair. I would be if I was in this fucking movie. Then for some reason she gets it into her head that her dad must still be alive, and the only way to find him is to seek out the bandits that lurk in the forests.
Right.
So naturally
Yeah. And then she runs into this guy. And this guy is a thief. He's not a prince. Where's the prince?
She runs into Jonathan about 5 minutes after leaving the house so that the rest of the plot can happen, and he protects her from the evil queen's soldiers by taking an arrow that was meant for her, so she brings him back to the dwarves to get fixed up. Oh yeah, you know those retarded looking Starbucks?
And you know what's ironic? You probably can see it. I can zoom out. You know what's ironic here? We got a dwarf actor. We got a dwarf actor for the 7 bandits, but we were not able to get a dwarf actor for the 7 dwarfs. Why? Just wanted to point that out. Snow White's dad? Was there even a mention of Snow White's dad in the original? I haven't seen the original in years. But just curious.
Baristas from those early set pictures that everyone thought were the dwarves? Well, those are the bandits, who are actually out of work actors forced to become thieves because the evil queen's taxation policies shut down their entire industry. Is that a reference to something? Is that a reference to something?
Is that a reference to something?
No, there wasn't. So then, what? At this point, another interesting thief, but this isn't Tangled.
No idea. Anyway, Jonathan decides to lure the Queen's soldiers away to give Snow White time to escape, and then immediately gets captured because he's a bumbling idiot. And the evil Queen decides that she's had enough of this shit. Frankly,
Who's the bumbling idiot?
something?
No idea. Anyway, Jonathan decides to lure the Queen's soldiers away to give Snow White time to escape, and then immediately gets captured because he's a bumbling idiot. And
That's also something I noticed in modern media. Why do we not have male characters anymore that are written not to be bumbling fools? Like, I've noticed a stereotype, especially with dads in shows, where they are like, you have like the really competent mother, and then you have like the idiot dad. I don't like this. Why can't we have both?
the evil queen decides that she's had enough of this shit. Frankly, one sympathizes, so she turns herself into an old hag and manipulates Snow White into eating a poisoned apple that makes her go a bit dead. But that's okay because Jonathan escapes prison so that the rest of the plot can happen and gives her the world's least passionate kiss, which brings her back to life so that she can begin her cunning plan to overthrow the queen.
So let me get this straight, okay? Let me get this straight. They removed the prince. Replaced him with a thief. The thief is a fool. So but he still kisses her so she can wake up. So what they did practically is they downgraded the script, by simply just changing that it's a thief and not a prince. What? What's that even the... What is the point of removing the prince if pretty much almost the same happens? Like, what is the point? Where are they going with this? Like, what's the reason then that there is a... Then... You could have also then just scrapped the entire poison apple at this point. What? Why? Tangled is the right way to do a twist to a fairy tale. I haven't watched Tangled in a while.
And take back her kingdom. Do you want to know what that plan is? Are you ready for the fourth dimensional quantum mega chest that she plays here that would probably give Christopher Nolan a brain hemorrhage? Well, she walks into town and then convinces the soldiers to turn against the evil queen because she can remember their names.
Huh? What? Oh, you know my name. Guess I'll turn on my queen. What is this? What? Who wrote this?
Really?
I'm not kidding, that's her plan. So the evil queen gets
What? This shit ass.
mad and smashes the magic mirror and then turns into black glass and shatters, and Snow White becomes the new queen, and that's it, they all live happily ever after. Now, there's a lot I want to say about this movie.
Real? What? That's it? What? Okay?
But first, let us begin with the positives. And as hard as it might be to believe, most of them actually concern Rachel Zegler.
No way!
Now, don't get me wrong, she might be an obnoxious arsehole in the real world, but credit
True and real, she is. It's Hollywood, baby. Like, shut the fuck up. Nobody cares Lord Falkwood with fatal alcohol syndrome.
where credit's due here, she actually isn't terrible as Snow White.
It's not true! That's impossible!
Yeah, I've heard from a lot of people that the best part really is Rachel Zegler, apparently. Her acting, at least, is somewhat the best part for some reason. I guess she does have somewhat redeeming qualities.
I mean, her outfit looks like it cost like $100 off Amazon, her haircut makes Anton Chigurh like a cutting-edge trailblazer, her performance is a bit over the
On that note, I've seen a really cute cosplay on TikTok of some girl. That was... It's funny how the fans can make better scenery and costumes than the people actually, having the money, spending $200 million. And the bot was so bad, it should be fluffy and bouncy. It looked so oily though. Yeah. Wait, what did Rachel do? A lot of things. She pushes a lot of narrative, political narrative. She is misandrist. That's also one big point. She's misandrist. There are a lot of things. If you go down the rabbit hole of Rachel Zegler, you'll find a lot of problematic things that she had said before. And she's really arrogant. Another reason why people don't like her.
The top and theatre kid at times, and her American accent comes and goes depending on whether or not she's in a reshoot, but I do get the impression she's at least trying to do her best with the material, and she can absolutely belt out the musical numbers, which is pretty much what you'd expect from a trained vocalist.
Yeah, the OG is, what's the word? You know, the good old patriarchy, you know? The original is, made by the patriarchy, and she was mocking the OG story, exactly.
The same cannot be said for Gal Gadot, however. It genuinely pains me to say this, but I think we all need to come to the acceptance that that girl cannot fucking act. It takes a special kind of charisma, presence, and dramatic range to play a good Disney villain, and well, Gal Gadot doesn't have it. Her delivery somehow manages to be wooden and scenery chewing at the same time, and when she has to deliver a big musical number, you can pinpoint the exact moment where they swap out her voice with someone who can actually sing.
Imagine there's no heaven.
Jonathan is yet another entry into the bumbling, forgettable, non-threatening male sidekick list of modern-day Disney heroes. There's brief moments where it seems like he might be displaying the tiniest bit of attitude and heroism, but then it's immediately squashed to reinforce the idea that men are all just a bit useless. Visually, the film's an inconsistent mess.
Yeah, that's, like I said earlier, that was one of the big points. This movie visually is absolute. People were already saying, like, what's the word? The visuals are dog shit. Like, they're actually terrible. The visuals apparently are very not good.
CGI Cthulhu nightmares aside, the colour scheme ranges from bleak washed-out grey castles and towns that look like Zack Snyder directed it, to a kind of over-the-top golden yellow piss filter for the CGI woodland scenes that's so excessive it actually makes your eyes start to hurt after a while. It's funny as well because there's like one scene that was filmed on location in a real forest, and the contrast between
That is very inconsistent. 'Cause, like,
that and the CGI fantasy version is
it's
so
really
jarring.
bright.
I actually thought the
It's really bright in some places, and then it's really dark. Like, even in, like, for example, this one, even then it's somewhat bright. But, like, where she was... Wait a minute.
golden yellow piss filter for the CGI
Here it's bright.
woodland scenes that's so excessive it actually makes your eyes start to hurt
And here's just, like, dead grayish. What is going on?
after a while. It's funny as well because there's like one scene that was filmed on location in a real forest, and the contrast between that and the CGI fantasy version is so jarring, I actually thought the action had shifted to a whole different country. Also, you can absolutely tell this movie's been reshot to fuck. The kiss scene where Jonathan brings Snow White back to life was absolutely added in later to try to appease fans of the original. Snow White herself has clearly been toned down in places to make her less obnoxious, and I'd be willing to bet about 90% of the bandits screen time has been cut. Most of them don't even get a single line of dialogue, which once again had me questioning, why the fuck are they...
Why are these guys in here if they don't get get dialogue? Like, what's the point? Why are you even here then?
even in this movie? I think the biggest problem though is the ending. The original movie had the dwarves battling the evil queen to save Snow White, reinforcing the idea of reciprocal kindness and redemption, but here Snow White has to resolve everything by herself, and the result is that none of the other groups or factions have anything to do. Both the bandits and the dwarves, and even Jonathan, just kind of stand around watching the whole thing play out, and I couldn't help wondering, what is the film even trying to show us here? Snow White as a character seems to be all about equity and shared responsibility.
Oh god, communism. The thing is, like, okay, so here's how I look at it, right? Here's how I look at it, right? I just question why it was necessary to remove the dwarves fighting what's the word? The evil queen. Like, why? Why?
Rather than privilege and greedy self-interest, but when it comes to the crunch, she ends up having to do basically everything herself, which negates the very point the movie's been trying to make for the past 2 hours. It's this fundamental inability to understand what it's even trying to say, beyond the crushingly tired princess who saves herself trope that's now become the very cliche it worked so hard to overturn that proves to be the film's real undoing. In short, Snow White is a modern day mess. A film that's basically been a disaster from start to finish, and now that it's finally out there and I've reviewed it, it's something I'm very much looking forward to tossing on the ash heap of history. Do yourself a big old favour, save yourself some time and money, and go watch the original instead.
Yeah, watch the original or watch another good older Disney movie. Or just another good movie in general. I can recommend Transformers 1 is a good movie.
Weird, weird.
Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
I will. That movie is a mess. It is an absolute and utter mess. I really question how they can, I don't know, release this. And not, well, they are reaping what they reap what they sow, and it's a solid 1.5. We can check. Let me check actually. What is it right now? Where are we at now? Where are we at? We are still at 1.5 with almost 230k reviews. It is bad. It is actually bad.